This is the tree that built America, the American chestnut tree, a once iconic staple of forests spanning the East Coast from Florida to Maine.
The American chestnut tree, if you're not aware, on the eastern coast, it represented about 25% of your forest. It was a very valuable resource to the wildlife, and when people started to use the tree themselves, they realized they had a tree that was a hardwood, that was resistant to rot. It was a great benefit both to the wildlife and to mankind.
In 1904, a new fungus called blight was introduced through trade, which infected many chestnut trees. The blight killed many trees, but it was later discovered that it didn't attack the roots, leaving a bit of hope for the future. Today, the tree is considered to be critically endangered, but researchers, park rangers, and tree lovers alike are using their collective power to save the American chestnut tree here in the DMV area.
So we're the Maryland chapter of the American Chestnut Foundation, and today we're working in one of our seed orchards. We have 2 seed orchards in Maryland, and we have a crew of volunteers out here culling the orchard.
Culling the orchard is an annual process in which volunteers cut down the trees that don't have a strong enough resistance to the blight fungus.
We had infected them with blight over the last couple of years, and every year we take an evaluation and see, are they handling the blight correctly or not? Or have they developed certain traits that we don't want in a tree that we would put back into the forest?
Tom Saielli is the Regional Science Coordinator for the Mid-Atlantic region of the American Chestnut Foundation. Part of his responsibilities include overseeing the orchards and determining which gene combinations are the most effective at resisting the blight.
We monitor these trees over a long time, and we identify the trees that we can tell don't have the right combination of genes because of the way they respond to a blight infection. So we cut those ones down. What we hope is that among the trees that stay in the orchard and grow, over time, we'll identify trees that seem to have inherited the right combination from both mom and dad and actually have good resistance to blight.
The work being done on the American chestnut tree could be a good sign for other endangered plant species, like the ash tree.
This is really important work because it hopefully creates a template for doing similar work with other trees. Now, of course, in every case, it takes years of research to identify, the genes or to figure out how to make the crosses. But it is being applied in other cases.
Dr. Liz Matthews, an ecologist and program manager at the National Park Service Inventory and Monitoring Program, believes that even if the crossbreeding research is successful, it would be hard to reintroduce the American chestnut tree into the forests of the East Coast.
To restore the American chestnut in eastern deciduous forests would be challenging because the forests are not the same forests that were there when the American chestnut was lost. So could we restore American chestnut to be some part of the deciduous forest on the East Coast? I mean, perhaps, but it would never be the same that it was previously. We're just, a different world.
Dr. Matthews mentioned that a few American chestnut trees have been replanted within national parks. In 2013, a few trees grown by the American Chestnut Foundation were planted at Prince William Forest for demonstration purposes.
One of the things I love about the American chestnut, irrespective of our ability to reintroduce it and for it to play, an important ecological role, is that it is the species that people really identify with, and it has kind of a cultural heritage for us in addition to natural heritage. And so I found it's kind of been a neat gateway ecological experience for people. They play that role of getting people excited about the natural resources around us.
In addition to restoring a hardy, fruitful tree to the forests of the East Coast, researchers have always been inspired by the cultural significance of the American chestnut tree, in the same way people are inspired today.
A lot of the reason is because it was such an iconic species, so important to people and rural farmers and wildlife and livestock. And I think people felt this intense need to try to save the species.
As we look to the future, and as our environment faces more and more challenges every day, it is important to appreciate America's native species and work to preserve these trees and their cultural significance. For GW News, this is Cate Waters.